The decisions that were made this morning by government related to the issue of immigration and policies on immigration. And at the outset, I think it is important for me to say that both I and the government fully recognise and acknowledge the invaluable contribution that immigrants have made to Irish society, Irish economy, and indeed the Irish culture in recent years. And I think that is something that is important to say and acknowledge. It is also the case, however, that as Minister for Justice, I have to take into account that our population last year increased by 1.6%, which is 7 times the EU average. So it is a very significant rate of increase of our population, and my own view, and it's the opinion of government, is that rate of increase does require a policy response. Obviously, we want to see our population continue to increase. We don't want to go back to the way Ireland was 80 years ago when our population is declining, and it is a positive sign that our population is increasing. But the rate of increase is a worry. And the first one I just want to refer you to is a new policy that my department and I will be issuing in respect of family reunification for people from non-European economic countries. Now, what that type of family reunification is it's based on a policy that was previously formulated by the department back in 2013. So it hasn't been updated for 12 years. And I got approval from government this morning to update and publish the new policy on family reunification for people from non-EEA countries. This is really family reunification for people who've come here to work in sectors of our economy and who apply to bring family members in. The policy that I got permission from government to publish today contains many important changes. First, it's going to include a very specific provision as to what type of family member will be permitted to come in pursuant to family reunification. It will apply to spouse or partners of the sponsor. It will apply to minor children of the sponsor. It will also apply to dependent parents and dependent adult children with a serious medical condition. One of the central issues that needs to be emphasised when people apply to family unification into Ireland is that we require that they be self-sufficient so that they can take care of the individual coming in. And because of that, we're increasing and indexing the income required to bring dependent adults to Ireland. And you'll see at the back of the policy document when it's published, the amount of gross income that an individual must be earning in order to successfully apply to bring in a child or 2 children or indeed a dependent adult. We're also introducing a requirement that exists throughout the rest of the European Union but doesn't apply in Ireland, and that is a requirement that people will have to establish that they have suitable accommodation for the persons that they're asking to come to Ireland pursuant to family reunification. And also we'll be introducing a fee for family reunification applications. That's something that didn't apply before but will in the future. Another decision that was made by government also relates to family reunification, but it's in the area of family reunification for persons who are refugees, or as you can also describe people, persons who've been granted international protection. That scheme of family reunification is dealt with through a different policy mechanism, and that policy mechanism is set out in sections 56 and 57 of the International Protection Act. At present, a person can apply if they get status as an international protection applicant, if they get status as a refugee, they can apply immediately for family reunification of family members. I got permission from government today to change that. And now there will only be an opportunity for people to apply for family reunification 3 years after they get the grant of status in Ireland. And also we will be taking into account the extent to which they are self-sufficient. Again, when it comes to social protection payments within 3 years of the grant of refugee status, they will be factors that will be taken into account. But again, what we are doing is we are harmonising the rules in respect of family reunification for both non-EEA and for those who've been granted international protection, so that all applicants must be able to display self-sufficiency. Other changes that I got permission from government today to introduce concern the grant of citizenship in Ireland. At present, for persons who are here on work visas, they have to wait for 5 years to apply for citizenship. They need to have 5 years reckonable residency here in order to apply for citizenship. However, if you're somebody who was granted international protection, you only have to wait for 3 years. Again, there may have been a reason for that in the past because of the delay in processing and determining international protection applications, but that no longer exists. We are now processing applications very fast. And the proposal I got approval from government this morning to agree to was that now anyone applying for citizenship will have to be able to show that they've been here for 5 years. Also, we will take into account when considering citizenship applications, again, one's sense of self-sufficiency. And we will be taking into account whether or not persons have been in receipt of certain social protection benefits in the years preceding their application. That's a matter that I have to finalise with the Minister for Social Protection, but it will certainly be the case that when it comes to the grant of Irish citizenship, we will be favouring and stating that individuals who are not in receipt of social protection and those who are working will be given more favourable an opportunity. The reason I say that is it's important to point out that citizenship by naturalisation is not a right. It is a privilege, and it's a privilege that government affords to people on behalf of the Irish people. It's also the case in terms of citizenship that we will be changing the law so that the time that people have spent here on temporary protection, obviously people from Ukraine are here on temporary protection, those, many of them here now for 3.5, coming up to 4 years, that time period will not be reckonable for the purpose of applying for citizenship, and that will be expressly provided for in law. And also I got approval from government to introduce a provision which would allow us to revoke refugee status, international protection status from a person if they were a threat or a danger to the security of the state or the public safety, or if they had been convicted of a serious offence. And the final decision and approval I got from government this morning was in respect of the introduction of a contribution model. Although this is something that is now going to be operationalised, it is a provision that was available and has been in our statute book through a statutory instrument since 2018. And the purpose of this contribution model is that if there are people who are applying for international protection and they're working and they're getting at present accommodation for free, we believe it is only fair that they make a contribution to their accommodation. And for those who are earning small amounts of money on a weekly basis, their contribution will be similarly small. For those who are earning a decent amount of money, they will also have to make a proper contribution to their accommodation costs. We believe it is important to ensure that there's fairness in the system, that if people are working and they're getting accommodation from the state, they should make a contribution in respect of it. So that is a proposal that has been agreed to this morning by government. We believe, from the basis of research done last year by the Department of Justice, that there's approximately around 7,500 people who are in accommodation with IPAS who are working and who would consequently be eligible for the contribution model. So that's a brief overview of the decisions that were made by government today on foot of proposals put forward by myself and Minister Brophy.